Good evening. Laura Donnelly here from Dancing with Ease, Body Brain Balance with Strange and Interesting Times, day 214. So, I grew up. My mom was, she was pretty funny, but she was also the sole provider for our family from the time I was 9. And she managed to raise my brother and I and send us to college and buy the house by teaching dancing. It was pretty amazing. I have a lot of respect for her. But one of the things she always used to say, especially when things were going good, is that she was waiting for the other shoe to drop. You know, it's like things go good for a little bit, then they go bad. And they go good for a little bit, then they go bad. And my 2020 has felt like that a lot. Um, to me, at least. And it can be really easy to pay attention to everything that's going wrong. And the other thing is that we know, like with the weather, even if you're having a complete drought or something, you know some storm is going to come sometime. Now, where I live, a lot of times what happens after it's been really dry for a long time and the ground is baked hard, then we get a huge rain and it comes down so fast that it can't soak into the ground. And so then the water runs in sheets across the ground. And in addition to the storm, then we have flooding. It's an adventure, for sure. It's an adventure. But when we choose, I like to say to choose how we're going to point our compass. So, right, the compass has this little magnetic arrow or something. I don't know what it is exactly. And you can use the compass to chart your path when you're going through an unknown place. I don't even know if they teach people to use compasses anymore, but I always thought it was pretty magical how they point to the north. Here, where I live, they point to the north, and how when you're just walking along in the world, say on a cloudy day, can't see the sun, it's very, very easy not to know without some landmarks which direction is north and which direction is south, and how you need to go to navigate your journey. So, getting to know our own minds, I think of as kind of as big of an adventure as the people who got in the ships and sailed into the ocean, not knowing that there was a continent here between Europe and the Far East. I mean, really, how brave did they have to be? Not knowing what they would find. Well, what, or how adventurous. We had the same kind of thing within the United States with the mountain men and the very first explorers, Lewis and Clark. They headed out, walking west, not knowing what they were going to find, following certain rivers. I listened to a thing on the YouTube the other day. Well, actually, I listened to it because my husband was listening to it, but it was about the mountain man, Bridger. And at one point, he followed the river out of Idaho, and they thought that the river was going to go to the Pacific Ocean. And really, well, and he said, well, I'll follow it. I'll find out where it goes. Well, he went down and went to the Great Salt Lake, but it was salty. So for a long time, he thought he had gotten to the Pacific Ocean. So adventuring is adventuring, and it's pretty fun. It can be also pretty scary. And when you think about your mind as a place that you can travel through and adventure in and navigate a path for your thinking so that your thinking follows a path that you want it to follow, that's when you need a compass. And that's when you need to point your compass to the light, to the things you're grateful for to positive things so that you can train your thoughts in the direction they want to go. Because left to their own devices, they're going to spin not like just one hamster on a hamster wheel, but maybe, depending on how your brain works, like 50 hamsters on 50 hamster wheels. And they're going to make noise all in your head. And different ones are going to jump up louder than other ones. And they're going to, you know how those little wheels squeak and squeak and squeak and squeak? And they distract you. And the whole nature of a thing that goes round and round kind of draws you in. And then it captures you. And then you have to get out of it, which you can do. But this idea that we know storms are coming, but we don't know what's going to happen. It could be a simple shower, like a springtime shower. Where I live, it could be a terrible, terrible storm with rain and hail. You don't know the number of times that I have been in a hailstorm and I'm yelling at the powers that be to not hail on my car. So hail damage is really a doggone thing in certain parts of the country. Doesn't do a lot of good to yell. But there's not anything else you can do either. You can't really drive out of it. Well, if you're on the highway, you can get under a bridge. And then the hail can't really get you for a little bit of time. But you have to deal with the fact that you have to pull onto the shoulder and that then you're stopping. And I learned in Arizona, when you stop on the road, turn off your lights, because otherwise other cars who can't see very good think that you're going, then they bump into the back of you because you're stopped on the shoulder. See, you learn all kinds of interesting things in your life. And you learn how to deal with the storms that come up. But worrying about the next storm, or like my mom used to say, worrying, waiting for the next shoe to drop, that takes away from right now. That takes away from what's going to happen. And out here where I live, in the middle of the plains, the Great Plains, well, actually, I think I live on the eastern edge of the Great Plains, but we're splitting hairs now. You can see a storm coming from far away. Sometimes it looks like these giant rain things walking across the plains. It's really awesome. It's really awesome. And so powerful. And so much bigger than any human. Then I think about the people in the covered wagons and them seeing this giant storm walking across as they're trying to get their little wagon across the plains. Oh, what bravery that took. Tremendous bravery. But sometimes you can see this and it looks like you can see a huge black bank of clouds and it looks like, or two banks, and it looks like they're going to smash together. And before they hit, they just dissipate and they disappear. Or a whole black cloud can sweep in and no rain comes. So this is just to say, not to get all caught up in anticipation, to pay attention to what's happening around you, to observe, right? So that if it's dark and cloudy, I take my umbrella or I take a raincoat, or I'm prepared to get wet, rather than being surprised when it starts to rain. Like, where did that come from? Well, you can look and see that it's a possibility. But again, where I live, even if the weather people say 50 to 60% chance of rain, we're like, we'll believe it when we see it, because they're wrong a lot. And that's kind of part of the fun. And it can be kind of frustrating. So if you think about what's coming, what else do they say? What's the other thing? Expect the best, but plan for the worst. That's kind of another one I grew up with. So how we dealt with that is like if we were going to go somewhere driving the car for Thanksgiving or Christmas, we had candles in the car. We had flashlights. We had a blanket. We had the spare tire filled up. We had a jack in case we had a flat. We probably even took a little bit of food. I mean, like maybe we weren't going more than an hour or something. But in Kansas, if your car stalls out and it's a winter storm, which can be like a blizzard, you can really need all of those things. But you just pack them so you have them. And then you head off to grandmother's house, what is that, over the hill and through the woods or whatever. And you assume you're going to make it just fine and that you're not going to get caught in a storm. But you're prepared in case you do. And this is the thing with our minds. A lot of times they do just fine. But a lot of times when they're confronted with a storm, it could be an emotional storm, a storm like this COVID thing is like a storm swarming at us, an outside thing that we don't have control over. When confronted with a storm, the mind can be thrown off balance, and it wasn't expecting the storm, and it, freak out. I don't have the blanket. I don't have the flashlight. I don't have I don't have whatever. Or if you have trained it, it can have that little, I don't have all of my stuff. Oh no. And then you say, calm down. Let's think. Let's pay attention. Now, everybody has cell phones now. So pretty much they think they're covered. But where I live also, cell phone coverage is sometimes really spotty, and sometimes the storms make it worse. Those giant windmills make it pretty bad too. Go through where those giant windmills are, and the cell phone coverage cuts out every time. It's kind of weird, but you just go past it and then you can call again. But our brains, if we take care of them and we teach them how to get back on track, how to have a moment of freak out, and then to come back together and to calm down and to remember to focus on what's going right, to stay centered and access all of our tools and skills so that we can deal with the challenge at hand. That's a better method than running around with your hair on fire, screaming and yelling, or just screaming and yelling. Sometimes screaming and yelling is the best choice. I'm not saying eliminate any of these options from your bundle of possible responses, but I'm saying pay attention to pay attention to whether you're driving your mind or your mind is driving you. That's the key. Because when our mind starts to drive us, it's being manipulated by a lot of other things. And so keeping the brainwaves clear so that you can move forward, so you can pick the direction you want to go, that you can pick the direction of your thoughts, that you can it's not that you don't have scary thoughts, bad thoughts, sad thoughts. It's that when you do, you don't get sucked into them and dive into them like a hamster wheel. But you can say, I'm feeling sad, and that's okay. And we can feel multiple things at one time. And we can feel sad without having our brain fritz out on us. So, again, I'm doing 30 Days of Ease, which is a picture and a quote that will bring you a moment of ease in your days. And if you would like to sign up for that, I will put the link in the comments. I'm kind of going through some of the ideas that are in those 30 days here. This would have been like the 7th day of those ideas. And as we come to the end of the 30 days, I have some special things I'm going to share with you. So I look forward to hearing how your journeys are going, how you deal with storms in your life, and also just how you're doing as things go by. So take good care, and I'll see you tomorrow.